Welcome to the Energetically You podcast, where we will be talking about healthy habits, abundant mindset, and optimal wellness. I'm your host, Megan Swan, creator of the Sustainable Integrated Wellness Approach. At 30, I sold everything and went on my own eat, pray, love journey, if you will. And now, at 41, I'm still on my first stop here in Mexico, loving life and feeling more energy than ever before. This podcast is for ambitious women who are looking to level up their energy so that they feel happier and more productive throughout their day in all of their projects and passions. Inside, we are going to be talking about ways to truly tune in to our minds and bodies in new ways to leverage our natural energy sources. So let's dive in. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Robert Raymond Riopel. He is an international best-selling author, app designer, so cool, can't wait to ask him about that, entrepreneur and trainer who has spent the past 18 plus years traveling around the world sharing his passion. He has also shared the stage with and trained many of the top trainers and thought leaders in the world today. With his high energy and heartfelt style, Robert draws on his journey from humble beginnings to financial freedom at the age of 32 to inspire individuals into tapping into their own greatness. Realizing that he is not the only person that struggles, Robert's quote unquote clues open individuals up to possibilities that lie within them, and that is why he is highly sought after. I'm looking forward to talking to him about his first book called Success Left a Clue. Robert, welcome to the podcast. Please introduce yourself and tell me the origin of your very unique and pretty sounding last name, Riopel. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
You hit it right on. So you did really well with that, Megan, because I get all the different pronunciations like Riopel, Ripple, and so Riopel is dead on. I am Robert Raymond Riopel, and the origin of my name is actually, it's French. And because I work with mindset, I didn't know until a couple years later, or a couple years ago, that my name actually is supposed to determine for me to be a very poor, broke, struggling person. Because in the French, if it's spelled Riopelle, that means you're born into the right family. You're the upper crust, you're wealth. But if you were spelled Riopel, that meant you were born on the wrong side of the tracks, and so you're nothing. And thank goodness I didn't know this until a couple of years ago.
Wow, that's so cool. Well, can you tell us, because I mean, it fits perfectly into your story. So I don't know if you want to say rags to riches, but I know that you have overcome a lot from where you originated to where you are now.
Well, yeah, both my wife and I, we're the youngest of our families, born into very poor, struggling families, just barely getting by. Our parents were good at making it work, but we never had any extra money. And so growing up, I was taught, look, when it comes to work, work hard, stay loyal. If you do that, a company will take care of you. And that's, even if you don't like the job, do it to take care of your family. So I started doing that when I was younger. And all of a sudden, at the age of 21, I'm newly married and I've been laid off from my third job because they're closing a factory down. And I'm like, but I'm working hard. I'm staying loyal. Why aren't they staying loyal to me? And I'm so blessed that I learned a lesson way back then that if I wanted to have success in my life, I had to take control of it. So out of necessity, I started driving and delivering pizzas for Domino's Pizza. Was able to become a store manager. My wife became my assistant manager. We started working hard, open to close, 7 days a week. A year and a half in, my franchisee decided he wanted out of Domino's Pizza. Now, I'm qualified to be a franchisee because I've met all the requirements, but we don't have any money. And again, out of necessity, we knew if a new owner came in, we were probably going to be fired right off because they like to bring in new staff. Mm-hmm. So we decided we were going to buy the store, even though we didn't have money to do it. But one of the things I have, Megan, that served me well, I have passion. And so my wife and I were able to figure out a way to be able to buy both of the stores he had for sale. We did it with no money of our own, and we became Domino's Pizza franchisees. Now, of course, when we became franchisees, it was like, oh, we've got it made. We're now successful. And at the 8-year mark, we were over $150,000 in debt and going down quickly. And that's actually when we were introduced to personal development. And we did a 3-day weekend that totally changed our mindset, totally changed our understanding of what money was and why we were in debt. And we were actually able to take that learning, actually put it into practice, because that's a key. We actually did something with it. And we were able to go from being over $150,000 in debt to actually retired completely financially free 9 months later at the age of 32. And that's when I realized if this little information helped my wife and I, what would more do? And if I could actually help one person, even one person, be able to do the same thing we were able to do, it would make it all worthwhile. And in the last 19 years, I've now been blessed to travel around the world several times and personally taught over 500,000 people how to have a better financial life, plus how to have a happier life. Because I'm a big believer we're holistic. It's never just about money or one thing. You got to take care of the mental, the emotional, spiritual, and physical. So that's kind of the condensed version of my 20-year journey plus to where I am today.
You are a trainer, correct?
Yes, correct.
So can you let's back up a little bit. What were you doing wrong where you got $150,000 in debt? Was it one thing or 100 things?
It was a few things, but the biggest one, we started making money. And if you remember, I said my parents were good and my in-laws, they were good at making money stretch. And so anytime times were tough, we could make it work. But also when we started getting a little bit more money, we started spending more money than we were earning. Mm-hmm. We were looking for all the toys, instant gratification. One of our stores happened to be in a resort area and we lived on the lake. So we had to have a boat. That just made sense. Problem was our busy season was boating season. So our boat stayed parked in the driveway, never got used, but we had all the expenses. So we had tons of expenses, but our income was down here and we didn't understand the difference between a working income and a passive income. And so we could never get financial freedom because we had all these expenses, all the toys, all the instant gratification. And probably the biggest mindset shift was that if we wanted to create wealth and security in our life, we had to be willing to think that long term. What do we want in the future? Not what do we just want right now? And we just started drastically cutting our expenses and learning about passive income. We started creating income vehicles that allowed us to make money even if we weren't working. And so that journey of 9 months, a lot of people go, oh, does that mean you're instantly wealthy? Oh, heck no. But we were financially free. And that's what I love to teach people is that definition of financial freedom is when your passive income is greater than your expenses, then you're financially free. So instead of working on creating wealth first, let's get you financially free. Because when you have the option where you don't have to work because your expenses are taken care of, now you can focus on creating wealth and it becomes much easier to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's a pretty common, I would argue, limiting belief that you have to work hard to make a lot of money or to be rich. Is that something that you come up with a lot in your trainings, money mindset, and how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's probably the number one belief that holds people back. And so what I help them understand is, look, you're actually working harder staying broke. So you're already working hard. Let's just kind of look at the way you work and it may take a couple of years of putting in a little bit extra. But what I've also discovered, Megan, is that most people, when they're working, they're distracted. So they're not really focused. They may be putting a lot of hours in, so they're busy. Mm-hmm. And they're like, why am I so tired? I'm so busy. But I love to show people that, look, if you take what I call focus time, and as an example, you take 2 hours of focused time, you put down the phone, you stay away from social media, and you focus on the one task, you can actually be more productive in those 2 hours than you can in an 8-hour normal day where every distraction takes you off. So it's a matter of understanding and prioritizing what is it you want to work on. So if you're already working hard, let's get you working smarter to create the life you truly want. Now, today, as an example, before COVID, I was traveling on average 200,000 miles a year around the world, teaching, instructing. However, I still had 6 months a year off to be at home because I liked my time off. I like to have more balance in my life. And so my wife and I worked hard in the beginning to create the life that allows us to do what we want now. And anybody can do that. I'm a big believer on that because I've seen it in my students. I've personally trained over 500,000 students and I've seen the results. So it's just a little mindset shift, and it doesn't even have to be huge changes. Little adjustments make the biggest difference in the world.
Even just finding moments in your day to be more present and grateful for what you already have is really transformational for people. And really, like it was a similar narrative, even in my parents' generation, but it would have been really hard to explain to my grandparents that I'm an online coach and like what that even means and looks like. It would just be so foreign to them. So have you found that that's part of your work in terms of helping people creatively think of ways that they can create income?
Absolutely. And, it's funny you mentioned about your grandparents. Until 3 years ago, my dad didn't even know what I did. He knew I traveled around the world, but until he actually read my book, he didn't have any idea. And so one of the things is something else you just mentioned. One of my daily rituals in the morning, I fill out my success and gratitude journal. And I list down at least 5 things. And it used to just be successes, even the smallest thing. I did the dishes last night instead of letting them sit there. But then it morphed into successes and what am I grateful for? And what I found, and even during COVID, one of the blessings, and I know this sounds weird, but one of the blessings of COVID is I've become more connected to people that I haven't been able to have the time to talk to for a long time. Mm-hmm. And what I started doing with my gratitude journal is if a name comes up or someone just pops into my mind that I write down, I'm grateful for them in my life. Obviously, there was a reason I thought of them. So instead of just writing their name down now, I actually message them. And I don't have any attachment to any kind of them responding or reacting or thanking me. It's just, I leave them, and I used to start typing, but then I went, why don't I record? And I'll just go on Messenger or whatever, however I can connect. And I'll say, hey, in my practice today, your name came up because I thought of you because of this situation. And I just wanted to let you know, I am so grateful for having you in my life. And that's it. And when you talk about the law of attraction now, for people who are struggling, by focusing on their gratitudes, it starts to bring things more into their life that supports them, empowers them. And a lot of times they're like, well, why is this happening? And the cool thing is, you don't have to know why it's happening. You just put your gratitude out there. You come back to being present more. Like you said, take those times in the day where you take that extra deep breath and you connect with what you're doing in that moment, whether you're by yourself or you're actually with someone else. Because how many times are we having a conversation with someone and they may be there physically in front of you, but their mind is somewhere else? And I know you can relate to that probably with coaching your clients.
One thing I often have my clients go through is a digital detox. And actually, I'm about to do a sort of digital detox myself in terms of minimizing my presence and attention in certain platforms. But I think people underestimate like how distracted and interrupted we are, and like how just maintaining that's so stressful, just constantly being interrupted. And like shifting to different types of thinking and tasks is very counterproductive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's why one of the things I teach people is something I call the 4 phases of life you go through on a daily basis. And I use the acronym OPEN, and the P in OPEN stands for pamper. This is probably the one that most people forget to do, so it takes them out. And it's about taking time to actually pamper you. And that might be, you know what, I'm going to take 20 minutes and read a book. I'm going to take 20 minutes and just be myself, meditate, center myself. And people go, well, Robert, why do you travel all over the world? And one of my reasons, which is very selfish, is that the moment I'm on a plane and I know I have a 12-hour, 15-hour flight, I do not connect to the internet, even if they have Wi-Fi. That's my time. That's time for me. Because with the giving that we give, if we don't make time for us, Well, you know that saying, you can't give what you don't have. And so having to learn to take care of myself, and it's not like, I don't want people making the think that I'm like, oh, how do you understand all this? I've gone through the ups and downs. You know, I've gone through where I didn't take care of myself, and I had to take 3.5 years off to get decompressed and actually go through 2 back surgeries because I wasn't taking care of myself. I was giving so much on the stage, I forgot about me. I lost me. And so taking that 3.5 years off, I was able to say, okay, what was working? What wasn't working? What am I going to do different if and when I come back out of retirement? And that was one of the critical things is, Robert, you have to have time to be there for you so that you can then be there for your friends, your family, your loved ones, your students. And so I'm very selfish on my time. And then I'm selfish on family time, because that is what allows me to have more success in all areas of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really helpful to frame self-care as like a money-making practice, like it's part of your maintenance, certainly if you're a solo entrepreneur, but really in any, you are relying on yourself, and at some point your brain, your body will break if you don't do that self-care. What do you say to your students that aren't at that point yet? Maybe they don't even feel, exhausted yet. Like they're not that close to burnout, or they haven't had any sort of physical presentation or nothing's come up for them where they have that deep reality check, like you just explained with the back surgeries, and you need to take time off. And they're saying, but I don't have time to read a book for 20 minutes, or I don't have time to go to the gym. How do you help them bridge that?
I use a kind of system I was taught years ago on how to schedule my life. And at the time, it was called the Big Rocks system. And we use the analogy and the visual of, you take that jar and you put big rocks in, then medium, then small, then sand, then water. And if you do it in reverse, you'll never get all the pieces in. So by starting with the big rocks, those are your balanced pieces. So what I do is my wife and I will sit down and look at our calendar, and we'll say, what's important to us to be rejuvenating? And those get put on the schedule first. Those get put on before anything else. And it could be date night. My wife and I, we met when we were 13. We started dating when we were 16. We got married when we were 19. And as of today, because of the recording date, tomorrow is our 32nd wedding anniversary.
Nice.
And I tell people, I would not be here if it wasn't for her, because if it was up to me, I would play comfortably miserable in a small box, and I'd be in a job that I hated, but I'd be comfortable. But she's not willing to let me play smaller than I am, which is kind of another technique for your listeners. Have those people in your life that aren't your friends. They're your best friends. They're the ones that are willing to tell you and actually have those tough conversations sometimes and say, look, get out of your head and just, quit beating up on yourself. They'll give you the love and care, but they'll also kick you in the ass if you are playing small. And so by us doing our big rocks in place, we now can then fill all the other space with work and not feel guilty. Because the first thing that went on the schedule was our time, for each of us individually, for us together with family. Like as soon as we're done this interview, my brother-in-law, he's about to go through a major surgery tomorrow on his brain. So as soon as we're done, the RV's already hooked up. We're driving up to be there so we can be with his wife while he's going through the surgery. And it's like, well, what are you doing in those times? Nothing. We're there for them. We're there with family because we scheduled stuff like that in first. And I hope that helps your listeners, because it made a huge difference in my life.
I love that analogy. I think I've heard it before, but it's a beautiful reminder with rocks. So what do you want to share with us about your book?
Success left a clue from my blessings of traveling around the world and not only being on stage with some of the top presenters in the world, seeing a lot of successful people, training thousands and thousands of trainers. I've learned some clues that people have in common. And so I broke it down into 6 very powerful steps on how to create the life that you want. Because again, it's not just about wealth. It's wealth in all areas. It has to be in all areas. And so with the steps, I tell people when they read the book, don't just read it. Don't think you're going to sit down and blow through it in a couple hours. It's not a very long book. It's actually a workbook. Because once you start going through it, at the end of each step, it says, here's an action step. Do this step before you read any more. Do this. And so step 3 is actually taking action. Step 2, find a mentor, someone to model from. Quit trying to do it on your own. Quit trying to figure it out on your own. Oh my goodness. Whatever you want to accomplish, unless you're an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos, chances are whatever you want to accomplish, someone else has done it before. So find out how they did it, model from them so that you can less stress. And that's a big one for a lot of people because, Megan, we've been taught in school, don't ask for help. That's cheating. Don't copy what someone else has done. That's cheating. But the greatest way to have success and less stress in life is to model what's been successful for other people. And so the book walks you through those 6 powerful steps and allows you, and it's me in a book. I've got a warped sense of humor. I love to tell stories. I love to have fun. And so it's me in a book is what it comes down to.
I love that. So where can we find this book? We'll share, I'm sure, links in the notes and all the ways that we can stay connected. But what's the best way for them to find your book?
Yeah, and actually, I'll put it in the chat as well. But if they go to SLAC, which stands for Success Plus a Clue, so SLAC.rocks, ROCKS, /book, they can actually get a copy of my ebook as my gift to them for me being on your show.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Any last parting words, bits of advice on helping people bridge that mindset gap to start taking better care of themselves?
Yeah, for me, life is too short not to have fun. Life, and I believe there's way too many serious people in this world. So I choose to have fun, and I'm a big believer if you don't enjoy doing something, do something else. And I know when I say that, Megan, some of your listeners are probably going, but I have no choice. I have to do this. And I'm going to tell you, you always have choice. Maybe you have to do something you don't like, but if you choose that, you know what? I choose to do this to get me where I want to go. Now it's your choice instead of feeling have to. That word have puts such a negative energy on you. But if you look at it, and it's an equation that I love that says E plus R equals O. It is not the event that's going to equal your outcome. It's the event plus how you respond to the event that's going to equal your outcome. And so when you come from that space of gratitude that, you know what, I may not like this. And there's things I do that I have to do that I don't like. But when I catch it and switch it in my mindset and go, you know what? Yeah, I don't like this, but I'm going to choose to do it. Like my wife, she took the tractor and plowed our big garden last night. So I know it's about time to go planting when we get back from camping. I hate gardening, Megan. I hate it. But you know what? I know the joy it brings my wife, so I choose to be there in the garden with her, helping her and assisting her because it gives us together time, and I see the joy in her face when that garden's growing. So now, because it's a choice, I'm not in the garden going, why are we doing this? How long? Come on. What? I'm in there, and I'm actually connected with my wife. And pun intended, we grow our relationship.
I love that. And I feel like I can feel your energy and even your face that you come from a place of gratitude and fun. It seems that you're, so relaxed. And I think that, it's a really big lesson to learn how to reframe in the moment those things we have to do. I mean, I personally, as a mother, when I'm sort of shifting into like resentment because I'm the only one that cares that the kitchen's clean, for example, this is my service. And it's only important to me. So it's not really fair that I like put all that other energy on someone else I kind of wish I could not care sometimes, but that's not who I am. So I'm the one that's going to do it, and I'm going to do it as my loving service to my family, and then enjoy the bliss of having a clean kitchen.
Absolutely. And that's how one of the ways you take care of yourself, because if we get caught up in our negative emotions from things that trigger us, it becomes that tributary effect where all of a sudden it's like, oh, what a gorgeous day. Yeah, but they said it's getting up to plus 30 Celsius today. man, I hate the heat. Last time I was this hot, and all of a sudden, 30 seconds ago you were happy, but now you're miserable. and I want your listeners to understand, it's been a lifelong journey for me. I just had my 52nd birthday a week and a half ago. And I choose that my next 50 plus years not be as rough as my first 50, because that was a lot of learning curves. But I look back and I go, thank you for every learning I have, because it's made me who I am today.
Yeah. I didn't want to ask, but I mean, I think you look at least 10 years younger than that.
No, thank you. You've got 20 minutes to quit saying that.
Well, we'll leave it up there with shifting into gratitude whenever we're feeling stressed and or triggered. It's a really powerful tool. And we'll share that link in the show notes so everyone can have a copy of your book. Thank you so much for being here, Robert.
Oh, my absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to Energetically You. I hope that this episode has helped you to tune into your natural energy sources so that you feel more energized and focused throughout your day. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to help more ambitious women just like you accomplish their goals. Don't forget to take a screenshot, share it on social or in your Instagram stories, and tag me at Megan Swan Wellness. See you soon.